Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act and to call upon my colleagues to cast a vote today that will make their grandchildren proud. Our nation is facing a critical moment of reckoning. We consider hundreds of important bills in this chamber every year. But it's not every day that tens of thousands of Americans take to the streets in the middle of a deadly pandemic to demand our attention. And so I want you to pay attention. We are here today to vote on the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, but not just because one police officer pressed his knee into a handcuffed black man's neck for over 8 minutes. We are here to vote on this bill because during those 8 minutes, 3 other officers stood by. And because the man who killed George Floyd had 18 prior complaints against him, and yet he was still allowed to wear a badge that should signify a community's trust. We are here today because Black Lives Matter. We are here because Rayshard Brooks and Tony McDade and Breonna Taylor and Stephon Clark and Deborah Danner and Philando Castile and Natasha McKenna and Tamir Rice and Laquan McDonald and Eric Gardner and Ayanna Stanley Jones and so many others are not here because their lives matter. We are here because police kill 1,000 Americans every year, which indicates a system so profoundly broken that it cannot be fixed by simply tinkering around the edges. So we are going to pass this bill today to create stronger systems of transparency and accountability in policing across this country. But just as our problems with policing run deeper than the actions of a few officers in Minneapolis, the fractures in our country demand more from us than police reform. It is not police reform alone that has brought people out into the streets in the middle of a pandemic that disproportionately kills people of color. What is called for in this moment is a courageous and comprehensive reckoning with racism in America, past, present, and future. It is Congress's job to deliver policy that answers the call for this transformation. I am the first person of color that Illinois' 14th District has sent to DC to serve them in this chamber. I co-founded the Black Maternal Health Caucus and recently introduced a package of Black maternal health bills because here in the United States, where we spend more money on health care than any other country in the world, the risk of a pregnancy-related death for Black women is 3 to 4 times higher than for white women. These women's deaths are preventable, and their lives matter. We need to ban chokeholds and end no-knock warrants for drug charges, and I'm proud that this bill does just that. But after we do, Black households will still own 1/10 of the wealth of white households. We must reform qualified immunity, and when we do, this pandemic will still take the lives and our jobs at staggering rates. So let's pass this bill, and then let's keep going, because there is much more work to be done to meaningfully address the many inequalities in health, education, economic status, justice, and safety that Black people in this country have faced for centuries. At this pivotal moment in our nation's effort to confront its own history, I urge my colleagues to make choices that rise to the gravity of the situation and our responsibility to the American people. It is long past time to bend this arc towards justice in policing and beyond. And I yield back.